If you're watching this video, you either are somebody or you know somebody who has a big ego. And the reason I'm making this video is because I used to be somebody who had a big ego. And that big ego helped me in a lot of ways to create success in my life, but it also became a huge detriment in other ways in my relationships and my long-term happiness and fulfillment. And that's what I want to talk about in this video today. What is a big ego, and how can you transform a big ego into what I call a strong ego? And how a strong ego can help you to have more fulfillment and happiness in your life and to move past being an egotistical maniac. Now, I want to premise this video by saying I'm not a therapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but I have spent many years studying personal development, psychology, and working as a consultant, so I do have some sort of understanding and background in the world of psychology, as well as the fact, as I said earlier, that I have suffered with a big ego and I've been through the full spectrum of it, helping me and then also hindering me in my life. So I'm coming from a place of personal experience and also some knowledge. All right, so let's talk about ego, what it is, and how it works. The word ego itself literally means I in Latin. And if we look at the dictionary definition of what ego is, it's a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance. So you kind of get the idea here. Now, ego is one of those concepts that theoretically is very hard to explain, but once you feel it for yourself, you kind of know exactly what ego means. The best way that I've ever heard ego explained is that it's that feeling that you get when you say the word I. So I think this, I feel this, I am going to do this, etc. That I that you mention is your ego talking. It's the kind of software program that runs your life, that tells you who you are, what you believe, the limitations and the abilities that you have and that type of thing. And whenever you kind of come against the boundaries of your ego, that's when you start to get threatened or you start to get scared or you start to get resistant, because the I is being tested. The feeling that you have inside of this is who I am, that is starting to be shaken a little bit by the reality of the world around you, and you're suddenly not as confident. Your ego doesn't feel as strong as it did. Very often people think that any form of ego is a bad thing, and I actually disagree with that. I think in some respects you have to have a sense of ego in your life, otherwise you have no identity, you have no beliefs, you have no opinions, you have no ambitions. Your ego is the thing that basically separates you from everything else and everyone else in the world and gives you that sense of control. So it is an important, healthy part of who you are, but when it's taken too far, it actually can become damaging. So this leads us to understanding what is a big ego. Well, I think we kind of already know what a big ego is. It's someone who is what is known as egotistical, full of themselves, kind of, full of self-importance, loves themselves too much, that kind of thing. We all know someone, or maybe we've been someone who is too egotistical, who has a big ego in their life. And the big ego kind of has pros and cons. What I noticed early in my life when I had a bigger ego was that I had a very strong reality. I could decide things in my life and I could plow through rejection, I could get past criticism. I didn't really care too much what people did or said around me because I was focused on where I wanted to go. And this big ego actually attracted a lot of people to me who would follow me and want to be in my presence because I had a strong energy and purpose, which was driven by a big ego, this need to be recognized and loved and adored and all that kind of stuff. Kind of embarrassing to admit, but that underneath the surface is what was driving, was this big ego that wanted to succeed. Now, what starts to happen if you have a big ego is that you tend to slowly depend on the bigger ego as a source of power. And what that does is it starts to make you sort of close down, kind of like a software program that's been written and, becomes antiquated. It doesn't work as well as it used to. That's what happens with a big ego. You end up getting to this point where you won't let new information or new people or new realities into your life, and you kind of get stuck at a certain point. That is exactly what happened to me in my life probably about, 15 years ago, and I'm sure it's happened to you at some stage too. You have a reality check, or your ego takes a bit of a bruising, and either you respond by pushing and rejecting that away, or you become open to a new reality and you start to develop what I call a strong ego. So now, what is a strong ego? Well, the way I think of a strong ego is that it's something that is adaptable, flexible, and accepting of reality. So it's still a sense of I, who I am as a person. So if you say the word I, but you think of yourself as someone who's open to feedback, criticism, that kind of thing in your life. If you have a strong ego, it means that you can adapt and evolve with the situations that you're in, and you're not just fixed in a certain way of doing things. Now, very often you will see people, as I was saying before, they will start to succeed very quickly because they have a big ego. They're very resolute about what they want to do in their lives, and it helps them to create success and momentum quickly. But then you notice after a certain period of time, it actually starts to be a detriment to them because they no longer listen to anybody around them. Even worse, they can't move past who they used to be. You see this a lot with celebrities who had success, 10, 15, 20 years ago, who can't move past the fact that they're not as famous as they used to be. They just kind of cling to the past, and it's kind of sad in a way. Well, we all do that in some respects if we have a big ego and we can't let go of it. And that's why I believe the solution isn't necessarily to kill the ego or to try and be egoless or, be so humble that it's painful, but to actually focus on having a strong ego. Looking at your life as something that's adapting and evolving as you are. Your sense of identity is actually different than it used to be, say, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Well, the world is very different than it used to be 10, 15, 20 years ago as well, and you need to adapt and evolve with that. That means that you're not going to be as great as you were in some respects in the past. You're actually going to have to start over again. You're going to have to start adapting and evolving, failing in the beginning again when you're starting in new ways in your life. Another huge benefit of having a strong ego versus a big ego is that with a strong ego, you have a clear direction and focus of what you want to do in your life, but you're very flexible and you're very detached from the results. So if you don't succeed immediately or in the exact way that you hoped, you don't get angry or upset or, resistant or deflated just because things haven't worked out like you wanted. That's a good sign of someone who has a strong ego that's using it to their advantage. And the final test of whether you have a big ego or a strong ego, I believe, is how you treat other people. Now, as I mentioned, when I was younger, I wasn't very nice to a lot of people because I was trying to succeed and grow very quickly in my life. But I learned over many years that the only success you're going to achieve is with the collaboration and connections with the people in your life. So I slowly evolved and became a much better person, much more humble, kinder, much more giving to other people because I realized that's much more rewarding. And I truly think that that is one of the true measures of a strong ego. How you treat other people along the way, whether you're a caring, kind, giving, considerate person, or whether you're just trying to use people to get what you want. So hopefully this kind of rambling video, this stream of consciousness I've had about the big ego versus a strong ego has helped in some way. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. Have you struggled with having a big ego? Have you hung on to the past and tried to be somebody or sought out accolades for things that you used to be instead of adapting and evolving? Or have you found ways to overcome your big ego and become more of a strong ego type person where you treat people well, where you adapt and evolve and accept your failures and successes and maybe even laugh at yourself? Please leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts. And if you like this video, please leave a like below and subscribe if you'd like to stay connected to our community. We'd love to have you with us. My name's Daniel Midson-Short. I am a recovering big ego addict. I hope this video has been helpful for you. Thanks as always for watching, and thank you for improving yourself.